Order.
It's just a week into the new parliament, but every sitting day it becomes more apparent how much has changed. The government's struggling to keep a lid on its hubris, at times failing.
Thank you for your focus on education and your focus on fairness, and also thank you for your support for the legislation to cut student debt by 20%. 20% is a big cut. It's not as big as 33%. That's how much the Australian people cut the number of Liberal MPs in the chamber at the election.
And the opposition is still stuck in the last war, with old stagers like Barnaby Joyce and Michael McCormack attempting to seize the limelight, leading the coalition onto slippery ground with demands to end net zero.
I know we're not in government. Chris Bowen might have a mandate to govern Australia, along with Labor, but they don't have a mandate to ruin regional Australia.
Political stunts are no substitute for real policies. And what you're seeing today is a political stunt.
The former New South Wales Treasurer and Liberal Matt Keane voicing the views of moderate coalition MPs, unwilling to give up on strong climate policy.
Those arguing against this transition are actually arguing for higher electricity prices for the mums and dads and businesses of Australia. They're arguing for less investment in this country. They're arguing for less jobs and a less prosperous future.
Labor is having no end of fun over the coalition's troubled union.
Appointing Senator Canavan to review net zero is a bit like putting Coldplay in charge of Kiss Cam. It doesn't necessarily lead to a happy marriage.
Bad gags aside, the coalition's impotence is a double-edged sword, giving the government enormous latitude. But it also risks triggering overconfidence, such as in immigration, which was one of the biggest fights of the election.
Do you concede they got a bit too high?
I'll make this point. There's only 2 times that more than 9 million visas have been issued in any one year in Australia. Both times, Peter Dutton was the minister.
Largely lost in that political debate is the fact that the government still hasn't announced a skilled migration quota for this financial year.
The migration program numbers are usually announced with the budget because the immigration program affects both the revenue side of the budget as well as the expenses side of the budget. This year, in the March budget, they weren't announced.
While the budget was early this year, the lack of detail since from the government is highly unusual.
I cannot remember a year when the government did not announce the migration program before the migration program year started.
Abel Rizvi is a former senior immigration department official. He says the wave of students and working holiday makers that have flooded in after the pandemic are now applying for permanent migration, leaving Labor with difficult choices between raising overall immigration or capping partner visa numbers, including for Australian citizens who marry foreigners.
If they did manage the partner visas on a demand-driven basis and left the skill stream more or less as it is at the moment, they would be looking at a migration program of around 230,000, 240,000 for the next couple of years. Oh, that would be the highest migration program in our history by a long, long way.
Another option is to cannibalise the skilled migration program to make way for the backlog, which business fears would worsen workforce shortages across government priorities like housing, healthcare and clean energy.
If the government were to do that, it would be a disaster. It would be a disaster for the economy as a whole. It would be a disaster for business.
A spokesman for Immigration Minister Tony Burke told 7:30 the government is managing applications in line with the level from the previous year and will have more to announce.
We would hope that the government is able to provide some clarity sooner rather than later around how the program will work this year.
Labor's obfuscation has consequences for states as well, who are still awaiting their annual migration quotas. Next month, the Productivity Commission will release a report on workforce skills in time for Jim Chalmers' Reform Roundtable, including questions about how employers access talent overseas.
You'd have to expect that we will need to bring in some labour if we're to achieve the targets that the government set of building 1.2 million houses. We're not on track to do that.
Whether it's on challenging issues of housing, immigration or the budget, Labor is benefiting from a lack of heavy scrutiny, with a few notable exceptions, such as the government's campaign claim that visits to GPs will be free for most people by the end of the decade.
Isn't it the case that Australians both need their Medicare card and their credit card to get the health care they need under Labor?
The fact is, the toughest political pressure is not coming from the opposition, but from within Labor and the crossbench, particularly on Gaza.
When will Australia be prepared to recognise Palestine as a state?
I share the distress that people around the world would feel when they look at young Mohammed, 1 year old. He is not a threat to the State of Israel, nor is he someone who can be seen to be a fighter for Hamas.
Despite increasing pressure, the Prime Minister is not yet willing to recognise Palestine.
The timing of our decision to recognise the State of Palestine will be determined by whether that decision advances the realisation of that objective. It must be more than a gesture.
With France moving towards recognition and other leaders like Keir Starmer in the UK facing internal pressure to act, the Prime Minister may just be waiting for the right time.